Meta just dropped its brand new app Threads and has gained a crazy amount of popularity in just a couple of days. Over 100 million people have already signed up for it in less than a week, which has made it the most rapidly downloaded app ever, period. And this has already made Threads arguably the biggest success Meta has had in years after a string of high-profile scandals and failures. If you aren't familiar, Threads is essentially a Twitter clone, as Mark Zuckerberg himself jokingly memed about on Twitter after its launch, and is a text-focused social media platform. Threads has the same classic features as Twitter, and people can like, repost, reply, and quote different posts on the app. So with Threads' similarities to Twitter and the app's overnight success, many people have been calling Threads a Twitter killer. But is Twitter actually in danger? It's actually a much more complicated situation than you might initially think. So let's examine the question and the competitive positioning of each company in more detail. And in order to do that, we need to first talk about the main reason Threads is smashing app sign-up records at the moment. And that's because it's almost not a sign-up process at all. You see, Meta made the very clever move to link Threads accounts with Instagram. So anyone that downloads the Threads app essentially creates their Threads account by simply logging in with their existing Instagram login credentials. From there, Threads automatically has your Instagram handle reserved for you so that you can use the same username on both platforms, and it also automatically connects you on Threads with all of your existing Instagram followers. This process is extremely smooth and relatively seamless. So this means that registering for a Threads account is as simple as downloading the app, logging in with your Instagram, and clicking a couple of buttons to automatically migrate your Instagram account data over and connect you with your existing contacts. This has been a massive advantage for Threads because the sign-up process is super simple with virtually no barriers to entry for anyone that already has an Instagram account. And because Instagram already has an enormous user base, this has given Threads rocket fuel for initially growing its users. To put this in perspective, Instagram has over 2 billion monthly active users compared to an estimated 330 million monthly active users on Twitter. So if even just a fraction of Instagram's total audience joins Threads, it'll quickly reach Twitter's size. And Mark Zuckerberg has his sights set well beyond that goal, as he has explicitly said that he wants Threads at the 1 billion user mark, and pointed out that Twitter has been unable to do this despite the many years worth of a head start it has had. Another significant tailwind that's been helping Threads attract users is the fact that there are a number of people that have been unhappy with changes made to Twitter and the operational issues on that platform since Elon Musk purchased it last year. Since Twitter first reduced its staff to cut costs, there have been a number of high-profile outages that have hurt the platform's reputation for being one of the best places for real-time news. So there's been a vocal group of people that have been looking for an alternative to Twitter. There have been many other Twitter copycat platforms that have tried to capitalize on this dissatisfaction and to lure these disgruntled Twitter users to their platforms. But Threads is really the first platform that's been able to attract these people at a significant scale, and it's in large part because Instagram already has such a large user base, and Meta is a dominant player in the social media space already with lots of brand recognition. But even though Threads is off to an excellent start, there's no guarantee that it kills Elon Musk's Twitter. Getting signups is really important, and Threads has excelled at this. But it's just one piece of the puzzle. Retention is just as important for running a social media platform. Getting people to stick around and actually be engaged on the platform is critical if Threads wants to succeed as a platform in the long run. Otherwise, people will eventually get bored and leave. This has happened to a countless number of failed social media platforms that have been trendy for a little while, but then have eventually fizzled out and slowly died. Twitter, on the other hand, has a proven user base that's been active and engaged for over a decade. Meanwhile, Threads is only a couple days old, and it's not clear whether all of the signups will actually translate into active users on the platform. They very well could, of course, but it's no guarantee. After the initial excitement and buzz from the app's launch starts to fade, we'll start to get a clearer picture of this in the coming months. Since Meta is a publicly traded company on the stock market and has to give quarterly updates to its investors, we could very well see commentary and disclosures about engagement metrics for Threads in the near future, which will give us more insight into whether people are actually sticking around. The other key factor when comparing Threads and Twitter is that they seem to be taking very different approaches to their target use cases and audiences. Twitter is notorious for being highly focused on news and politics. As such, it's a platform used heavily by journalists, politicians, academics, organizations, and people generally interested in breaking news. In contrast, one Meta executive has explicitly said that with Threads, they're not really looking to replace Twitter, and are less interested in being a platform for politics and hard news, and are more interested in creating a conversation app for other things like sports, music, and entertainment. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta have also been heavily trying to market Threads as a more positive and friendly app. This seems to be a very deliberate decision to distance themselves from the typical sort of discussions you would see on Twitter, as it's well known for being an overall very combative and hostile platform. Right now, Threads is not monetized, and there are no ads, so Meta is not making any money off of this app at the moment. Zuckerberg has said that they are instead focused on growing the user base and scaling the platform before introducing any advertising. But it's likely that if the company continues to grow the platform's user base, that it will attract significant advertising dollars when they eventually do introduce advertising. Most corporations are already very familiar with advertising with Meta through Facebook and Instagram, so they have a massive list of existing advertising clients that they can theoretically sell ad space to on Threads when they do decide to launch that functionality. And with there being a notable number of brands that have stopped advertising on Twitter completely, it's fairly likely that Threads can capture these advertising dollars that have left that platform. Twitter and Elon Musk are not taking the launch of Threads lying down though, and have accused Meta of stealing Twitter's trade secrets and have sent a cease and desist letter to Zuckerberg's company. In response, Meta has said that no one on the Threads engineering team is a former Twitter employee at all. It's unclear whether Twitter will actually attempt any legal action against Meta, but it would likely be a high bar to clear in court in order to prove that Meta did actually steal trade secrets from Twitter. While Threads has been a smash hit so far and a huge win for Meta, that doesn't necessarily make it a Twitter killer. My opinion is that it's pretty unlikely that Twitter is going anywhere anytime soon. While there has definitely been an immediate negative impact to Twitter and its traffic since Threads launched, as noted by Cloudflare's CEO, it's still too early to tell if this will be a sustained trend, or if it's just the initial excitement of a new viral social media platform. It's true that Threads is definitely a huge threat to Twitter in the long run, and it's possible that it could eventually become a Twitter killer. But the more likely outcome seems to be that the two platforms will attempt to cater to different use cases and audiences, with Twitter remaining the dominant platform for politics and news, and Meta heavily targeting entertainment and more casual discussions. It's also interesting to note that big tech companies have increasingly been engaging in more direct competition with each other. Just last month, Zuckerberg was the victim of that as Apple entered the AR/VR space with the Apple Vision Pro, and now this month he's doing the same thing to Twitter with the launch of Threads. If you're interested in learning more about how Apple's directly targeting Meta with the Apple Vision Pro, check out my full video linked in this info card here. It's definitely been increasingly chaotic in the tech space as competition from these massive corporations has only increased. But let me know if you think Threads will be the end of Twitter in the comments below, and what your general thoughts are on the app. And make sure to subscribe to the channel for more finance content. Thanks.